Now, welcome to another weekend ramble, where this time the question is...
Do you think that the Ahsoka live-action Disney Plus show would have perhaps done better fan-wise if they would have produced it in animation? Why do you think they went live-action? Do you think it was a money thing? Do you think it's about, exposure, that they thought, okay, if you make it live-action, we're going to get more exposure of the show, more people maybe coming to Disney Plus than if we make another animation Star Wars project? What are your thoughts?
I think fan-wise it does better. I think animation people tend to be a little more forgiving because you know it's going to be a little more, shall we say, stylistic.
Right.
I think when you go live action, people expect kind of a little more, and I know it's kind of funny to say, but a little more realistic, right?
Yeah, they expect it almost to be more grounded, oh, well, I can do that, but...
Yeah. If you watch, obviously, Ahsoka in animation, she's doing crazy flips, and we don't ever see anything quite like that in
all the
anime or
characters,
live action.
really, yeah.
Yeah, just watch any of the animated shows. They're doing things that, again, kind of slide in those shows, but in live action, you would be like, what?
Yeah, what are you doing?
Yeah, the Bad Batch, for example, they do some, Wrecker is just picking things up and chucking them around and, doing things you're like, well, if they tried to pull that off in live action, even with Wrecker being kind of superhuman strength, for lack of a better way of putting it, people are going to roll their eyes and think that looks ridiculous. But in animation, you just go with it.
You roll with the punches, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you said, you let it slide.
Yeah, I think it's kind of maybe ingrained in your brain that animation is, just, again, going to be stylistic and a little more exaggerated.
Exaggerated, a little more eccentric.
Yeah. And so I think had Ahsoka been animated... And again, when you do animation, the sky's the limit, or the pen's the limit. I guess you could say that they're doing with pen and paper.
The sabercopter's the limit.
Well, no, but my point is you can do anything. There's no budget, right? I mean, there's a budget, yes, but you're not we have to somehow make this look realistic in live action. You just quote unquote draw it and animate it, and you can do anything. Look at Clone Wars. You're going to Coruscant, you're going to a different planet every week. You can't exactly do that in live action the same way. So you could have taken the show to another level in animation, made it look better, different planets, different things, I guess you could say.
Ahsoka would have moved more like the way we know she does because, of course, she comes from animation. So seeing her switch into live action, while it was really cool and stuff, it still leaves you lacking a little bit because she obviously cannot move the exact same way as her cartoon counterpart.
Yeah, there's certainly a sense of disconnect there to a degree because, again, she's just a very fluid, very graceful, very acrobatic character, obviously. Even in Rebels, she's doing things that are, not quite the Clone Wars where she's doing some crazy stuff, but she's still very athletic in Rebels, and, you kind of lose that into live action.
I also think that Dave Filoni got obsessed with trying to make her a samurai all of a sudden.
Yeah,
He went very Japanese, Oriental... For Ahsoka, I'm not exactly sure why, because that has never really been associated with her character.
I sometimes think Filoni tries to pay a little bit too much of an homage to what Lucas did and some of the... Well, I shouldn't say what Lucas did as much as Lucas's influences. Because, obviously Lucas was influenced by Kurosawa and of the sort, so... I feel like he leans very heavily into that, even more so than Lucas ever did.
But it's weird, though, because in his animated version of Ahsoka, she didn't wear the toe shoes.
No.
They didn't use terms like Boken Jedi. They didn't have
things like that, too, yeah.
The molten gold cracked armor and things.
Yeah, again,
all of a sudden,
very heavily
he wanted to go, I'm going live action now, so that means I have to lean heavier into these sources of other live action projects.
Yeah, I don't hate it. It's just sometimes when you hear...
It's a little discontenting for me. A little disconnected.
Yeah, sometimes you hear phrases, and you're just like a Ronin Jedi. It's like, well, couldn't you just come up with your own word for it? It's not bad. It doesn't, bother me, but it does give you that moment of huh?
When you take words and phrases directly out of our culture and you apply them, I was like, okay, now she's a Ronin. And, oh, look, there's Boken Jedi. And we're just applying our terms to things. And I feel like they could just...
Make a new term up, yeah.
Well, we don't need a term for it at all.
Well, I would be upset if you come up with a term for it, but maybe not an actual term for it. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe others feel differently about that.
Perhaps. So why do you think they went with live action? Why do you think they chose live action?
Bigger audience.
Think the
animated shows are... The animated shows are never going to capture the same amount of attention and the same viewership as the live action.
Yeah,
barring
that's
something
true.
incredible happening, because for whatever reason, there are a lot of people who they see animation and it goes cartoon and it goes to kids, and I don't watch that.
Do Do you think it could also be because they're assuming the fan base who grew up with Ahsoka are now adults and would prefer a live-action Ahsoka? Maybe
I don't know.
Thinking that they have to change to a more mature median because the people who grew up knowing who Ahsoka was have also grown up.
Yeah, I mean, I think the prospect of seeing Ahsoka in live action is exciting if you grew up with the character, right? It sounds cool in theory. And I'm not saying in practice it was horrible by any stretch. There were certainly good things with the Ahsoka series, and it was cool to see the character in live action. I think it might just have to do with Dave Filoni wants her to be an important character in this time period. He pitched the idea of a live action show. It's a female character, too, getting a lead in a show, which is pretty rare for Star Wars, right? We got to be real about it. It also seems to be a priority to push more female characters, for sure, here in the Kennedy era. So I think that all kind of factored together to, well, let's do it in live action. Let's try to bring this character up another level, right? Let's bring her more mainstream to the people who won't watch Clone Wars or Rebels. See if we can, turn her into a truly, that next level that she has yet to reach, that beyond the core fandom level.
So when people are looking at who are the list of the female Jedi, they're not just going to go, well, there's only Rey, right?
Yeah. Yeah, again, it's, for better or worse, that's something they want to do. They want more female characters in Star Wars. I don't think most people have a problem with that at all, as long as they're done well. As long as any character's done well, go for it.
And I was using that in the more common casual fan. I know there are tons of female Jedi that many people who watch this channel can quote that come from the other movies and all other media. So I just don't want you to think that I don't think there's other female Jedi. What's interesting is you hear that Disney and stuff, they seem to be struggling financially. So I'm really surprised they went with a show like Ahsoka with something they had to throw a big budget at.
Well, I find it funny that they named the show Ahsoka and you made her well, no, I really do. I think they
need to stop that.
They do, because that's the Marvel thing, right? In Marvel, the character is the feature, right? That's what you come for. You come for that character. In Star Wars, you come for the more general story, I feel.
Well, and they're trying to tell a general story.
Yeah, it clearly was a more general. She wasn't even necessarily the main character of this story.
Well, we've discussed it before with other projects, like Andor, for example, being called Andor. We're like, well,
that's a bad name.
Why? It's not just about him. It should have been called, we've all said it, Star Wars The Dark Times.
Yeah. I mean, after you watch it, you can go back and say, okay, the family name, I get it. It's good, but it's not a name that you're really going to attract people with.
Yeah, The Dark Times, that would have had me interested.
That gets the normie, the casual fan out oh, what is this about? Instead of Andor.
There had to be some better name that could have come up for the Ahsoka series.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we've told the joke before, but, we've had people ask us, my nephew, who's a casual fan at best. Yeah, you laugh because you remember, what's in Ahsoka?
What's in Ahsoka?
Yeah. So...
Could have been the Tales of Perdia.
Even that is more interesting, right? Because you're implying something bigger, I guess, not just a name that doesn't mean anything.
Dusk of the Empire or something. I don't know.
The Rise of the Empire. I mean, anything.
If you said Rise of the Empire, I think we were going to prequel time.
Yeah, but we are still, I guess they're kind of, the height of the Empire. I don't know. There are tons of quote-unquote generic names you could have come up with that would have worked better than Andor.
Even now they're The Mandalorian, that could be any Mandalorian now.
That's
so
full. That is they are so full of it when they say that. I mean, as been pointed out, what song plays when Din Djarin shows up, or what theme show, the theme of the show is his theme as well in the show. So don't try to tell me that the Mandalorian isn't meant to be him.
I don't know.
And
sounds fishy.
If you would have sold it from the start that it's going to be kind of a rotating thing, sure. I mean, I don't hate Bo-Katan. I think she's a fine character, so it's not that I'm upset that she kind of took his spot per se, but it's the show has become his. That's the problem. And so when he kind of took a back seat, you can understand why people were upset.
Could have been Star Wars hunting the last Grand Admiral.
The search for the Grand Admiral in the other galaxy. There you go.
That's on the nose. Even just the search for Thrawn would have been good, because you're not implying it's all about Thrawn, just that he should be involved.
I think what works about that is, of course, you're implying an action, you're already kind of implying the show's going to be about this. It's a search for, you might not know what a Thrawn is, but he is also a name that I think a lot of people have probably heard. I mean, I don't know about more than Ahsoka, honestly, though. I mean, Thrawn is a name that's been around for 30 years. Ahsoka's been around for 15. And Thrawn is kind of if you know anything about the EU, you've probably heard names like Thrawn, Mara Jade. Those are probably the most common EU names. So that may have gotten people's attention.
You can comment in the comments below what you think, whether you're serious or kind of making a joke title. I want in the comments other names for the Ahsoka series rather than just calling it Ahsoka.
Yeah, you can have a fun name or a real name.
And don't call it Sabine. I already made that title.
Yes. I mean, you could call it. That's a good name for it, too, but we're looking for something beyond a character name. Could have just
been called, like, Rebels Return.
You know?
I mean, Sabine's in it, Ezra's in it, Harrow's in it. Rebels Return.
Rebels Last Ride? I don't know. That's
terrible. No, that's terrible. Mine's better. Rebels Returned.
I guess. But that confuses people because you're, like, post-rebellion. I don't know. Some fans get confused anyway, and the ones who ask in Rogue One, like, where's Rey? Why are they making another Death Star?
The Return of the Ghost Crew.
See, but then that's like, who the Ghost Crew?
Exactly, they'll watch it anyway. What's an Ahsoka? Same difference.
Yeah, I guess.
If you're going to say, what's an Ahsoka, I'm happy with you saying, what's the Ghost Crew?
Yeah, who are the Ghost Crew? Dun, dun, dun. But anyway, I think that is going to be all we got for you this time. Now it is your turn. Take to the comments below. Give us your name for the Ahsoka series, fun or otherwise. Or tell us what you think about the idea of Ahsoka being an animated show, or whatever you want to call it, being an animated show. Do you think that would have made more sense, or do you like that it was in live action? Whatever the case may be, leave those comments below. Let's talk some Star Wars, and until next time, thanks for watching.